Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. We welcome you to our this morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. This morning we will be hearing and discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 15, verse number 9. And the title of the chapter is The Pandavas Retire Timely. This morning's class will be given by His Grace Pariksit Prabhu from ISKCON Harrisburg. Prabhu, I think it was His Grace Riyaspa Prabhu's turn, but I was informed by Nse Mataji because he has not joined. You can cover for him.
Yes, as far as I understand.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Whenever you're ready, we can start.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Nitai Gaur Chandra Nitai Gaur Chandra Gokhari Jaya Nitai Gaur Chandra Nitai Gaur Chandra Gaurahari Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo Nitai Gora Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Privajikacharya Stotara Satashishi Mara Sapine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Privajikacharya Stotara Satashishi Mara Sapine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vindi Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Hayas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Charya Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavind ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Mathura Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Jagannathpuri Dham ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktavind ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande. Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Lord Shri Prabhupada. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Swami Kinami Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shri Gaura Karna Shakti Bhakti Namaste. Narayana Namaskritan Rochevam Narotamam Devim Sarasati Vyasam Tato Jayam Budirayat Nasya Paishwa Bhadrisu Nityam Bhagavati Sivaya Bhavatu Tamastuki Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Good morning, all the devotees. This morning's Bhagavatam class is from Canto 1, Creation, Chapter 15, the Pandavas retire timely, and text 9. So I'll read the text 3 times, and everyone who feels inclined to do that can also do so. Yate jasani prashirundrim aha makatam ayonu jastava gaya yute sattva virya Tina hrita pramata nata makaya bhupa and mochitastad anayan balim advariti Yaktejasa nipashirundrim ahan makatam Aryo nujastava gajayuta sattva virya Dinahrita pramata nata makaya bhupa Yanmochita stad anayam balim advariti Yaktejasa Nipa Shirondrim Ahan Makartam Aryo Nujastava Gajayuta Sattvavirya Dinahrita Pramata Nata Makaya Bupa Yanmojita Stad Anayan Balim Advariti. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Anyone else?
Yat tejasa nripa shiro angarim aham makartham aryo nujastav gajayata sattva viryaha tena hrataha pramathanatha makhaya bhupa yanmochitastad anyam balim advarete. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Okay, word for word. Yat, whose, Tejasa, by influence, Nirpasiriya, Angrim, one whose feet are adored by the heads of kings, Ahan, killed, Maka Artam, for the sacrifice, Arya, respectable, Anuja, younger brother, Tava, your, Gaja Ayuta, 10,000 elephants. Sattvavirya, powerful existence. Dena, by him. Arita, collected. Ramatanata, the Lord of the ghosts. Mahabhairava. Makaya, for sacrifice. Rupa, kings. Yat Muchita, by whom they were released. Tad Anayan, all of them brought. Balim, taxes. Advare presented. Te your. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Your respectable younger brother, who possesses the strength of 10,000 elephants, killed by his grace Jarasan, whose feet were worshipped by many kings. These kings have been brought for sacrifice in Jarasan's Maha Bhairava Yagya, but they were thus released. Later, they paid tribute to your majesty. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jarasan was a very powerful king of Magadha, and the history of his birth and activities is also very interesting. His father, King Brihadrath, was also a very prosperous and powerful king of Magadha, but he had no son, although he married 2 daughters of the king of Kashi. Being disappointed in not getting a son from either of the 2 queens, the king, along with his wives, left home to live in the forest for austerities. But in the forest, he was benedicted by one great rishi to have a son, and he gave him 1 mango to be eaten by the queens. The queens did so and were very soon pregnant. The king was very happy to see his queens bearing children. But when the right time approached, the queens delivered 1 child in 2 parts, 1 from each the queen's wombs. The 2 parts were thrown in the forest, where a great she-demon used to live. She was glad to have some delicate flesh and blood from the newly born child. Out of curiosity, he joined the 2 parts, and the child became complete and regained life. The she-demon was known as Jara, and being compassionate to the childless king, she went to the king and presented him with a nice child. The king was very pleased with the she-demon and wanted to reward her according to her desire. The she-demon expressed a desire that the child be named after her, and thus the child was surnamed Jarasan, or one who was joined by Jara, the she-demon. In fact, this Jarasan was born as one of the parts and parcels of the demon Viprachiti, the saint by whose benedictions the queens bore the child was called Chandra Koshika, who foretold of the child before the father Brihadrath. Om Aginat Vidandasya, Yana Ganashalakaya, Takshu Umilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah, Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale, Swayam Rupakada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shcha. Shri Rupa Sagajatam Sagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajiva. Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam. Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Shcha. He Krishna Kruna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite. Dr. Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavan Sute Devi Paramami Hari Priya. Panchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhivya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishavevyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Dvaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Time. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Peshtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamani. Namaste Saraswati Devi. Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunyavari Paschatya Deshitarani. Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Guracha Sedma. Nanda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Himabhya Divyacha Vishnuraya Tasmi Maha Praspadaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste, Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste, Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste, Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. Translation again. Your respectable younger brother who possesses the strength of 10,000 elephants, killed by his grace Jara's son, whose feet were worshipped by many kings. These kings had been brought for sacrifice in Jarasan Mahabhairava Yagya, but they were thus released. Later, they paid tribute to your majesty. Hare Krishna. So, Arjuna is recalling a pastime, and a very important pastime, where Krishna, as we know in this Dwapara Yuga, when he came to Dwapara Yuga, he actually got rid of quite a few demons right from his childhood. Putana, Chakatasura, the list goes on, when he was even a baby. And then as he grew, other demons came and he got rid of them. Because actually the request had been made by Mother Bhumi that there were too many demonic kings on the face of the earth and they were rulers. And we were causing such problems. You know, people who are demons, when they become king, then they like power. They do things without any guidance from Brahmanas, and they just do whatever they want. And they don't acknowledge that even God is the superior, the most superior being. They want to do everything. They want God's creation without God having any say in it. So they are demonic in that sense. And of course, we see Krishna sometimes killing the demons himself and sometimes giving the opportunity to his pure devotee, who is a Kshatriya, to do that. So this particular personality among the Pandavas, who is being called the respectable younger brother, is none other than Bhim, and Bhim is a younger brother of Maharaj Yudhishthira. So that is correct. Your respectable younger brother. He possesses a strength of 10,000 elephants. 10,000 elephants. Hard to even imagine that. Elephants can uproot trees, so Bhim can just easily do that, better than even one elephant can do. Jarasan was also quite powerful. And he was connected to Kamsa. His daughters had married Kamsa. Kamsa was also quite powerful physically. And of course, he also knew some tantric situations that he could get things, metaphysical things also performed. So all of these were empowered demons. But as this is being recalled, the things that had happened. So Arjuna is speaking, and he's talking about Bhim now, who killed Jarasan. And Jarasan had actually captured a lot of kings, and he was going to perform a sacrifice after which he become really invincible. So he was looking forward to that. I think there were, if I remember the past time right, there were a few more kings he had to capture, and he would get the required number in order to do that particular sacrifice. Yet Krishna stepped in, and this is part of Mahabharata, that in order for the Rajasuya sacrifice to be performed, there would be one king who would definitely oppose it. Krishna was telling the Pandavas, and that would be Jarasan, who actually had attacked Mathura several times. Every time he would get defeated, but he would just go get another army, and then come and attack. So he was very much against Mathura, Krishna, and so he had to be eliminated. So in this pastime, what happened was that Arjuna, Krishna, and Bhim disguised themselves as Brahmanas and went to the palace of Jarasan. And so they know kings, even the demonic kings, still would always give respect to Brahmanas when they come. So these Brahmanas visited, disguised, actually, Brahmanas, Krishna, Arjuna, and Bhim Sen. So when they came, Jarasan had his suspicions, but still he received them properly. So when he received them, he told them later on that he would talk to them, but he would come at midnight. And so he was true to his word. He met them. And as he studied them, he realized that there was something a little bit wrong here. There's something that didn't quite add up. Finally, the three told Jarasan who they really were, because Jarasan had suspected that they were not Brahmins. And they introduced themselves. And as Krishna introduced himself and introduced Bhim and introduced Arjun, then Jarasan asked for what they wanted. And Krishna says they wanted to do a fight, Jarasan. Jarasan picked Bhim to fight him. And so it was arranged, an arena was arranged, and the fight ensued at the time that was set for. And this fight went on for a number of days. Finally, by Krishna's help, Bhim became successful at weakening Jarasan, but not able to kill him. Jarasan, as it says in the purport here, was actually born in two halves by the two queens. So in order to eliminate Jarasan, he had to be split in two. And not only that, according to Mahabharata, at least the video, which showed that Krishna guided Bhim on how not only to split the two parts of Jarasan, and then throw them crossing each other, one crossing each other. Again, that's what the video says. I haven't read the book, but that's what the video says. So Bhim then got rid of Jarasan, so that now the Rajasuya sacrifice could go on. Now, in the purport, a little bit of background is given by Srila Prabhupada about Jarasan. He was a very powerful king of Magadha, Naresh. And they talked about the birth. All kings desire a son to follow, become the crown prince, and then so that when they retire or leave, if death takes them away, then there is a person to continue with the rulership of that particular area. Jarasan was born because there was a great desire by King Father Brihadrath to have a son. He had two queens, but none of them would get pregnant. So finally, they went on the forest, as Srila Prabhupada described here, for austerities, for the purpose of getting a child. And there was a rishi that was compassionate to the king and gave them a mango. But the king did not give a mango to the one queen. He split it in half and gave two halves, each to a queen, one half. And so when they got pregnant, then as the mango was split in half, so the child, half of it was born from the womb of one queen and half of it was born, the other half from the other queen. And so what kind of child is this? Of course, you can't have a personality half to half. Are you even going to feed or have them grow? So the king then ordered that the two parts to be thrown away in the forest. But then this particular demon, Jara, she-demon, came across the two halves. So the first, she was thought that was a Leo, but before she was going to eat, then she put the two parts together and life came back to this particular baby. And as Papa describes here, she sent the baby to the king, and the king was very happy. And now he had a son, a whole son. So as for asking for a boon, the she-demon just said to be named after, him to be named after her. And so the name Jarasan. The Srila Prabhupada describes it so nicely in the purport. There are so many pastimes involving demons and Krishna, or demons and the pure devotees of Krishna, those who do everything that okay. It looks like I did not read the whole purport. Huh? Okay. Sorry, I will continue to read that because of my cell phone actually got short and I could not see the rest of it. All right, so I will read that and comment on it too. Since Jarasan possesses demoniac qualities from birth, naturally he became a great devotee of Lord Shiva, the Lord of all ghostly and demoniac men. Ravana was a great devotee of Shiva and also was Jarasan. He used to sacrifice all arrested kings before Lord Mahabhairav, Shiva. And by his military power, he defeated many small kings and arrested them to butcher before Mahabhairav. There are many devotees of Lord Mahabhairav or Kala Bhairav in the province of Bihar, formerly called Magadh. Jarasan was a relative of Kamsa, the maternal uncle of Krishna, and therefore, after Kamsa's death, King Jarasan became a great enemy of Krishna. And there were many fights between Jarasan and Krishna. Lord Krishna wanted to kill him, but he also wanted those who serve as military men, but Jarasan might not be killed. Therefore, a plan was adopted to kill him. Krishna, Bhima, and Arjuna together went to Jarasan in the dress of 4 brahmanas and begged charity from Jarasan. Jarasan never refused charity to any brahmanas, and he performed many sacrifices also. Yet he was not on a par with devotional service. Lord Krishna, Bhima, and Arjuna asked Jarasan for the facility of fighting him, and it was settled that Jarasan would fight with Bhima only. So all of them were both guests and combatants of Jarasan, and Bhima and Jarasan fought every day for several days. Bhima became disappointed, but Krishna gave him hints about Jarasan being joined as an infant, and thus Bhima dissected him again and so killed him. All the kings who were detained in the concentration camp to be killed before Mahabhairava were thus released by Bhima. Feeling thus obliged to Pandavas, they paid tribute to King Yudhishthira. Okay. So by Krishna's mercy, so even though I apologize for making a mistake that using a cell phone and I just couldn't somehow.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I apologize. It was my mistake. I never scrolled down.
Okay, and I was depending on this, so but Krishna took care of it because this second part was what I actually described, commenting. And so basically, Krishna is always in control and helps. So this whole thing about them coming, Krishna, Arjuna, and Bhima coming to see Jarasan dressed as Brahmanas, we talked about that earlier, and that is this second part here in the fighting that went on. So Krishna, in many ways, will always come to the help of his devotee. In many ways, will come to the help of his devotee. That one of the things we need to understand in devotional life is that no matter what it is that our situation is, if we depend on Krishna, being surrendered to him, then he always solves whatever that we are facing. If you're surrendered and if you're a servant, of course, the servant does not, this is one thing we need to be careful of. The servant is not telling the king or the master how to go about helping. I'm in trouble, but if you could help me this way, then I would be fine. Krishna is a source of intelligence. So we should never, even in seeking protection, determine how the protection is to take place. The whole plan how to get rid of Jarasandha was from Krishna. Arjun and Bhim never decided to go to Jarasandha's place dressed as brahmanas. It was Krishna's idea. Krishna knows past, Krishna knows present, and Krishna knows the future. And all plans are ultimately from him. Ultimately from him. But he, at the same time, has given us some minute independence by which we can also act, especially in the material world. In the spiritual world, we were there serving the servants of the servants of the servants of the Supreme Lord. But then we abused our independence and put ourselves at the level of Krishna, or wanted to put ourselves at the level of Krishna. And then we wound up here in this material world. So in this material world, there is, as you can see here, times where people have to fight, times where people have to struggle, times where people have to just try to satisfy their senses in order to be have some sense of relief, which they call happiness. But that's the material world. And the material world doesn't really give deep, heartfelt happiness, because it's set up in such a way that we will ultimately be tired of living here in this material world. Because people have desires and Krishna does not interfere with anyone's desires, then at the time of death, if a person is thinking a certain way, then Krishna arranges through his agents to grant a particular body that will in fact fulfill that wish. So according to the state of the mind, when a person leaves the body, he attains what he wants to. Now, if it is back in the material world, then that means that the suffering is still going to be there in another way. And nobody escapes suffering. Rich people don't escape suffering, poor people don't escape suffering. Rich people get sick, poor people get sick. Rich people get an anxiety for different reasons than poor people, but poor people also get an anxiety. In other words, there's varieties of anxieties to go around. Take your pick. But for a rich person, that for a poor person. And so when we are in a situation that we're in now, like knowing about Krishna by the mercy of the spiritual master, and not only that, but being able to serve Krishna through the agency of a spiritual master, his instructions, and most importantly, the mercy of the Lord, who has come in the form of the golden avatar with his brother Lord Nityananda, giving mercy, not killing demons, but changing demoniac minds so that people turn their attention to Krishna consciousness. It is the greatest gift at this time that we've been given. Lord Chaitanya came 500 years ago, a little over 500 years ago. My Gita was saying yesterday, 536 years ago, and it was a little over 530. So he has spread the name of Krishna by chanting. He himself is Krishna. But with his associates, he's chanting the name of Krishna, assuming the role of a devotee, so that we would learn. As he said in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, surrender to me, Sarvadharma Parityaja Mamekam Shadam Vacha. Aham Tvam Sarva Papigya. I will deliver you from all sinful reactions. Mokta Ishami Masucha. Don't worry. Now, the other day, His Holiness Chandramali Swami quoted this, and he said, some people are saying, Krishna says I should surrender. He's asking too much. The Supreme Personality of Godhead says surrender. A person with good intelligence will realize he has everything. So if you surrender to him, you are fully protected. But some don't do that. So when Krishna taught in Bhagavad Gita what to do, still he said, I will come. And so by invitation of Advaita Acharya, he came this time as a devotee and disguised himself. So nobody knew he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead that had come in this wonderful golden color of Srimati Radharani and performing. Now, Krishna has said what to do in Bhagavad Gita. And Lord Chaitanya was now saying and mostly showing what it is like to be a devotee. So now we have the mercy of the Lord. We are not going to get killed the way that our son was killed, and sometimes other demons like cancer were killed by Krishna himself. It is our minds that need to be purified. And it should be a very, 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 very serious endeavor from all of us. The mind can be a rascal. The mind can get attached to things that will in fact you hear me?
Yes, now we can. Yeah, there was a momentary
Yeah.
pause here.
There was some interruption a little bit, but we'll talk about that later. Ramadan's here. So anyway, the mind can give us problems, but if the mind is set up in such a way, or it's directed in such a way that we're constantly hearing about Krishna consciousness, and we're constantly serving, and we're constantly chanting the holy name of the Lord. And as Rupa Goswami tells us, we are using our intelligence to look closely at everything that comes to us. Will this help me in my devotional service to the Lord and to his devotees and to Guru? Will this not help me? In other words, as my Guru Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj discussed one time in a lecture, treat the mind as another entity, not us. Treat him as another entity. If you meet somebody that you don't know, you don't start by immediately becoming friendly with them. You may be courteous to them, but you will want to know what they are about when they come to you. So if you treat the mind as another entity in itself, then whatever the mind brings, you determine, according to Rupa Goswami's instructions, is this going to be good for me in my devotional service? If it's yes, then do it. If it's not, then certainly stay away from it. We have certain services that are constant, and that when we perform, especially in the temple and our own homes and worship and so on, those are instructions from Guru, and the guidance has been given. Therefore, those we have to do, but even that we have to be careful not to do it as a matter of fact, but do it with great attention and do it from the heart, so that our connection with Krishna to Krishna will be increased. Remember, the aim is to develop love for Krishna. So if we go through service the way we say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and like that, then it's just a question of just repeating things, but not putting our hearts into it. Service from the heart is very, 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 very important. Service from the heart. So when we serve, and even when challenges come, we serve anyway, and usually challenges that come at the physical level. But we are there and saying, no matter what it is, maybe I'll make some adjustment here and there, but not stop the service altogether. Just go ahead. Go on with the service, whatever the situation, whatever the situation. That is what impresses Krishna. Bhakti Vinod Thakur has said that when he experiences challenges in his service, that's in service to Krishna, That is his greatest pleasure. Now, some of us are not, a good many of us maybe not at that level, but when you're experiencing uh, challenges that in serving Krishna, that he feels pleasure from it, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur was describing his spirituality. But for us, despite the challenge, we should rise up to the task and get it done. And even if there's an adjustment that has to be made, the aim should be to get the service done to the best quality that we can put in. That is very, 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 very important. In that way, we would grow slowly. Krishna watches everything that we do. Krishna is in our hearts as Paramatma. He watches everything that we do. And so when we are genuine, he knows. When we were just trying to just get things done just to get it done, he knows that too. So you cannot, nobody can fool Krishna. So when we give our hearts and also be very, very respectful to devotees in general, then our kripa, devotional kripa, will grow. And when it grows, as it says, it would pierce the universe and then finally get to the spiritual one that be at the lotus feet of the divine couple. We would, in fact, have our minds travel and stay with Krishna consciousness and connected to the spiritual world doing spiritual activities. Then the material activities are only given the mindset of necessity, things that need to get done as necessary to keep the body going. It does not become a priority, it's only necessary. Then the spiritual activities become the priority at all times. And when there is an opportunity to do a service, we definitely jump in and do that service. When there's an opportunity, when other things have come or service is there and it's not been noticed or not been done by others, you jump and get that service done. And as far as doing service, the more menial, the better. Why? Because menial services help us in developing humility. Some people do some things, they go, oh, this is beyond, below me. I would not do this particular service. No. There are people who have, in the material world, very, very elevated positions. And they are very humble. So when they come to the temple, you will see them. And I've seen this in different yatras. Clean the bathroom, clean the kitchen, do things, wash things, like that. And I remember in Girinagri also, when we were there, the emphasis was on menial service. Menial service to spiritual master and also deity service. And we carried that out. And when you look back at it, those were the times that we did more growing in Krishna consciousness. Another thing too that I would like to tell you, especially now that I'm past 70, the old age, the body gets to be a little old. So for those who are not at that age yet, this is the time to put in as much service as you can, the physical body will allow you to do. Because it will get to the point where later on the body wants to do the service. The body knows that the service is there. The mind says, yes, we can try to do it. The mind wants to do the service, but the body won't allow it. And so all you can do is look back. Sometimes, my own personal feeling about it is I get quite concerned. So if I can't do much, well, how is my spiritual master looking at me now? I used to be able to do this, used to be able to do this, and I'm not being able to. Am I being looked at? Am I being just given excuses? How far can I push the body now? And if you push it too much, there could be problems with it because it's actually breaking down. But those are not situations of concern when we're younger. So in our youth and in our 30s and 40s and up to 50, less than 60 years old, you do as much as you can because that's what you're going to be relying upon. That is the bulk of your spiritual credits. That's the bulk of your spiritual credits. At old age, yes, you can preach if you're so inclined. You can preach, and that's also very good because Krishna says, one that reveals the supreme secret, Krishna consciousness, it's very dear to me. So yes, that would be there, but the fact of the matter is that when the body slows down, there's other services that we won't be able to do. So while the body is younger, and is physically able to do more, that's when you take advantage of a situation and serve as much as possible. Then Krishna will protect us. And then Krishna does so much. As a matter of fact, I heard something that I'll reveal to you guys when we went to Mayapur. There was a doctor, as you've heard, those of you that were in yesterday's, not yesterday's, but Sunday's description of what happened in Mayapur, that my body was challenging me quite a bit physically. We went to see a doctor who is a disciple, a devotee. And the devotee, as he was checking me out, was also preaching to us. And one of the things that he said, it was nice. You go to a small clinic and the doctor that's talking, trying to help your body is also talking about pastimes in mindful. But he was talking about the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So much mercy is there given by the Lord. And he also mentioned the fact that rounds, doing japa, 64 rounds. He says, those, in the Mayapur has been promised, those who do 64 rounds daily will never, ever have a situation where there's no prasadam at their house. And when he said that, I was very surprised. But then the Lord's mercy is the Lord's mercy. All kinds of things can happen. So he was describing that those benedictions are there. So many things that Mayapur itself, apart from the Temple of Vedic Planetarium and the plans that are being done, it's almost completed. There's still some work to be done. It is a very potent dam, and already a lot of people are coming to the dam. A lot of people are coming to the dam. Bus loads of people come. And so when you heard that Madame Shia was saying how crowded it wasn't crowded for the devotees of ISKCON being there. The devotees of ISKCON just, we see them every now and then here, but there were bus loads of people who were coming, and the devotees were given them the mercy by putting tilak on their faces. The tilak dye, and they dip it in the clay, and then they put it on their face. So it was very nice, and they were coming to them. They were coming to see the place. They were coming to buy some devotional paraphernalia in the stores. And so that was helping them being in the dam. They were also shop and then, of course, go to the restaurants and so on. But the mercy is there. Definitely mercy is there. If you are a devotee and you put your heart out, so many things can happen. I felt quite a bit of connection with it, even though on the physical ground, there was a lot of people. And then there were other inconveniences too, which I wouldn't even go into detail. But all of those are not as important as the spiritual atmosphere and the connection to the spiritual atmosphere. So Srila Prabhupada has given us so much now. And we really, in many ways, got it made, because we don't even have to chant 64 rounds to go back to Godhead. 16 rounds, it says it's enough. But we should have to chant 16 good rounds. One disciple of Srila Prabhupada was saying the other day in the Prabhupada memory videos, Srila Prabhupada told 16 rounds, but 16 good rounds. 16 good rounds means 16 rounds with great focus on the chanting. So Maharaj Yudhishthira was very much helped. Was very much appreciated by the kings after Jarasandha was killed by Bhima. Bhima was one of the Pandavas, and Yudhishthira was very, 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 very much appreciated as a king, and of course his brothers too, since Bhima was the one that actually killed Jarasandha, who would have sacrificed all of these kings. So Krishna is there to protect his devotee. when we pray for help, we should pray for help in services, especially services, to do the best that we can do in all services. And then Krishna will take care of everything, material as well as everything else that we need to do in order to go on. Krishna already knows what we need. We know what we want, but Krishna knows what we need, and he'll provide what we need. So this is a very nice pastime of Krishna directing Bhimsen to get rid of Jarasan, so all these kings could be freed. Hare Krishna. Chira Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for taking this class on a very short notice. As
Yes.
always, you are our savior in the morning. Beautiful, beautiful points. So we will open it for all the devotees now. You can unmute yourself or even raise your hand, type on the chat box if you have any questions, any comments from today's class, or in general, anything you would like to ask. While devotees are thinking few points, very nice point, Prabhu, that how we should get engaged in the devotional service on the consistent basis. And you mentioned menial service is the best to keep us, our feet on the ground.
Yes,
And,
it helps us with humility. Humility, yeah.
Yeah. And then, you shared from your experience that body is not getting younger. It's going to get old. So best time to perform the services, everything we can do for the Lord is now, not later. Like Srila Prabhupada says, I remember his quote, work now, samadhi later. So we should another thing Srila Prabhupada used to say, do something for Krishna. At least do something. That action we need to do now.
Yeah.
And also, thank you for sharing your experience from Navdeep and Mayapur. So all your realizations and experiences, I'm sure we will keep on hearing more from you and Mother Anasuya.
As we remember, yeah.
It's because although you might think you were there for only a week or 10 days or whatever, but the Lord gives the realizations and experiences we can keep on talking about and relishing them for many, many months. Same thing.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone has any question? One question I have, Prabhu, is when we are reading these particular chapters, this video, we see that although Krishna could have, just by blowing the wind, he could destroy everybody. Still, he's engaging Arjuna, Bhim, Yudhishthira Maharaj, everybody, in these pastimes. So, one thought could be that Krishna gives the credit to his devotees. Because Bhima could have said, you can kill him by just fluke. Why you are making me work so hard? How can we practically apply it in our life?
When we are serving, and the way you ended the question, working hard to serve, Krishna has told us in Bhagavad Gita that there has to be action. There has to be action. And so everywhere, even in the spiritual world, there is action. There's action in bliss, but there's still action. When we put effort into serving the Lord, it also shows as an example to others to connect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it also sends the message that that's where energies have to be put in. The thing is, in order to show that we care about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or that we love or we develop in love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when you love somebody, it does not matter what effort you have to go in order to do some service, something that they like for them. And so this can be taken as, yes, in some situations we have to work hard. In some situations we have to face challenges. In some situations things turn around. But our determination and our enthusiasm has to be maintained in order to be able to get whatever that we're doing in service accomplished. And it also serves as a sign to others who may be watching that nothing is more important than serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything else pales in comparison to serving. Because if our aim is to develop Krishna Prema, love of Godhead, love is a verb, it's an action. To love is to also act to show that emotion is there. And so we should never ever feel that, oh, this is too much, oh, that is too much. And as soon as we do that, and it does happen, I'm saying it for my own purification also, then Maya steps in and he'll pull and say, oh yeah, I see you're working too hard. You don't have to do this. Next thing you know, that the enthusiasm that comes from the service is now waning or going down. And then one is not as excited about serving. When that happens, there's advice also given by Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. If that happens to anybody, they feel not enthused. And I know that's not the question, but that leads to this point. If they don't feel enthused, look back at the times when you were very excited about Krishna consciousness. What were you doing? What were you doing? Go back to that time and how you were acting and how you were serving and what you were doing in service. And try to get into that type of service again, that type of mood again. And of course, prayer, Vandanam, is one of the 9 processes. So when we are not enthused, bells should go. Bells should go in our head. Watch out, watch out, watch out. Danger, danger, danger. Because Maya is always looking. So therefore, we should never say, oh, I'm working too hard, and therefore working too hard is reason and it's too much, and therefore we're going to quit Krishna consciousness. No. The other point about it is that there's also sadhu sangha. There's devotee association. Therefore, when sometimes services come and you work together with other devotees, it's even more blissful. You can talk about Krishna and do the services at the same time, and it doesn't put as much stress on you than when other people are involved. After all, in the spiritual world, it's a community type of living, and community means one helping the other person. But everything is provided there, of course. So that's a different situation from the material world. But still, we're practicing giving our love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by giving all that we got. It includes hard work. Hare Krishna.
Bro, thank you so much. Beautiful points, bro. That there is action even in spiritual world, so we have to serve by our actions to set example for others. We have to maintain our enthusiasm, and if enthusiasm is going down, then how we should deal with that. So wonderful advice from His Holiness Bhakti Tirth Maharaj. And work with devotees. That will keep us enthused. Otherwise, it will make us dry. And when we work with devotees in a sangha, it gives us the feeling of community. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for making these points. It doesn't seem like anyone else has any questions. I don't see anything on the chat, and it's 9 o'clock. Little more than that. So thank you again, Prabhu, and thank you all the devotees for joining us this morning. We will see you again tomorrow morning. Same time, 8 a.m. And thank you everyone for your association and participation in wonderful Shri Gaur Purnima celebration last evening. And thank you, Prabhu, for the ecstatic aarti. It makes the whole environment very divine. Thank you again. Hare Krishna. All grace to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.